guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped, and welcome to the Audi TT RS. Now first up, I want to say a massive thank you to all of those who've reached out to me with positive comments since I collected my new Porsche 718 Boxster GTS just a couple of weeks ago. The feedback has been overwhelmingly supportive and I'm very, very grateful. However, I've had this press car this week, and I must say there's a big question that needs answering. Why didn't I buy one of these? I mean, seriously? Now that is a very good question. Why didn't I buy a TT? Why did I buy a Porsche Boxster? The answer is going to take a little bit of time, but let me explain a few things as well. I've only had my Porsche Boxster GTS for a couple of weeks now. I haven't even done my first drive review of it. And as we're filming, literally tomorrow, I'm going to take this car on a 2,500 mile road trip around Europe. So plenty more Boxster action to come. But I have been planning buying my next car for a while. And one of the hot contenders for my next car was a TTRS, and I actually asked Audi for this car quite a long time ago. There's quite a lead time for cars. I asked them for the car before I'd even decided I was going to buy this, because I had never had a TTRS press car before, and there's a good reason for that. I knew if I had one I'd probably end up buying one, because I have had two TTs before. We had a Mark 1 225 brake horsepower TT Roadster. Absolutely loved that car. And then I enjoyed it so much, we went back again and had a Mark II TTS. But when I bought the TTS, I was this close to buying the RS and kind of always regretted it a little bit. I know they are amazing cars. I've had a TTS press car from Audi in coupe format, and it was very, very impressive. This is that just dialed up to the max. This is 400 horsepower. So if we're starting to say, why didn't I buy a TTRS? 400 horsepower, 360 horsepower. This wins. But this also has practicality on its side. Now I know it's not an exactly fair comparison. I'm comparing a coupe with a roadster, but bear me out on this one. First up, in terms of money, how much they cost. I'll talk more about the options and spec of this car once we jump inside. It's in Nardo Grey, and the on-the-road price for this car, as spec'd, £59,000. This car, albeit a 2020 car with 6,000 miles on the clock, £62,000. So very, very similar kinds of budgets. So actually, I'd have been better off buying this because it's cheaper, if your maths works that way. However, practicality-wise, this is a two-seater. There's no kind of passenger space at all. This coupe format, now I have reviewed a TTS before. I had a long-termer for 4 weeks from Audi, and it impressed me greatly, and the amount of stuff I could get in it impressed me a lot. If you drop those two seats down, you can get a bike in the boot. You need to take both wheels off, and the two seats, although they would be a bit tight and cramped for human beings, are perfect for two pups. So actually, from a practicality point of view, from a my daily point of view, I'd be much better off with one of these. So why didn't I buy one? We'll get to that in a minute. Ah, the joys of filming at Goodwood. Lovely planes in and out of the aerodrome. So let's jump inside and I'll tell you more about the spec of this car. Now then, one of the big selling points for me of my Porsche was the interior. But one of the things I love most about Audis is the interior. And this is no exception. I think the TT for me is one of Audi's funkiest interiors. Things I really like. There's not a big iPad stuck on the dash. You've just got the virtual cockpit, and you've got these really cool air conditioning dials with the controls in the middle. I just think that looks fantastic. You've got a big proper gear changer in the RS model, not one of these tiny little kind of nipple things that you see in some of the other S3, for example. It's just beautiful. Now, spec-wise, this car, it doesn't have a massive amount of option on it, actually. The main thing, we've talked about it being Nardo grey. That's a no-cost option colour. The brake calipers being in red, well, that's going to cost you 345 quid. And then the next big red option is what's called an RS styling pack red extended. And you'll see these red accents here on the centre tunnel, on the side of the seats. You've got contrast red stitching on the seats, and it just sets the car off beautifully, especially linking in with the brake calipers on the outside. Now that pack is 1,125 quid. And then the other big expense item on here is a comfort and sound pack, which is £1,195 as well. So it's not a massive amount of spec on here. There's a storage and luggage pack, which is the cheapest option at £175. So this car's got £3,800 worth of options. As I said, that brings it in at £59,000, which I know for a TT is a lot of money, but boy oh boy does this car pack a punch. So up front we've got the just legendary 5-cylinder Audi engine, 400 PS, and the noise that thing makes is absolutely stunning. It harks back to Audi rally cars of the past, and it's a very, very special thing. Whenever you drive an Audi with their 5-cylinder engine in it, it really is something special. And actually, if you compare that with the 4-cylinder Boxster engine that's in my Boxster, noise-wise, this wins. The 5-cylinder Audi engine is a sensational thing. So far, it's looking pretty well card stacked towards the Audi. It's got room in the back for the pups. It's practical. I can get my bike in the boot. It's got more power. It's cheaper. There's got to be something missing. There's got to be something that meant I didn't buy one of these and I did buy my Porsche. What I would say is whichever one you buy, you're going to end up with an amazing car and a little bit of regret that you didn't buy the other one. But let's take this car up the road for a drive and talk about what it's like to drive, because honestly, the performance of this thing is just sensational. So let's head out into this beautiful day and talk about this car when you're out and about driving. So while I wait for the car to warm up, I thought I'd just have a chat with you about my feelings of owning TTs in the past and what they're just like to live with. And the really simple answer to that is they're brilliant to live with. They're just such an easy car to drive every day. But when you want to have a bit of fun and you want to push on, the performance is there. And in my experience of Audi ownership, that's S models. But whenever you drive an RS car, there's always something very, very special. And I know when I bought my last TT, the choice between an S and an RS was a really close one. And at the time, I just started my own business and the financial difference was quite a lot for me. And even though the performance was what I wanted, I opted for the S. And I had over 4 years of happy ownership of that TTS. I loved the car, loved it to bits. However, I always regretted not buying the RS. I always regretted not spending that little bit of extra money. Interestingly, when we bought the S4, because I had the same kind of dilemma, S4, RS4, when we bought the S4, and I've had 2 of those, I actually didn't regret buying the RS4. And I'm not quite sure why that is. I just think that the S4 was such a competent and complete car. And the RS model just brings it up another notch, takes it up another few levels. I think with the RS TT, compared with the TTS, the big difference is the engine. The 5-cylinder engine in this car is the same as you'd get in an RS3, it's the same you get in the RS Q3. It just sounds amazing. And I think for me, that would be part of the ownership experience. Now, the really interesting thing, one of the options on this particular press car is the sports exhaust. But I'll be honest with you, the noise that this car makes is one of the biggest disappointments, because we've got so many restrictions in terms of noise regulations and emissions regulations and OPF filters and all that kind of stuff. It just means these cars don't sound nearly as good as they did 3 years ago, and therefore I'd either be very tempted with an aftermarket exhaust, or I'd go for an older model that was out before the various filters. And the Porsche suffers from the same problem. I know I haven't done the full review of the Porsche yet, but one of the things, it has the Porsche performance exhaust upgrade, but it still doesn't sound nearly as raughty as I want it to. So, heading out onto a bit of road that I've wanted to film on for a while. I actually came down here on one of my IAM mentors sessions, and it's a mega bit of road, so into manual. So this car, performance wise, it's actually probably closer aligned to a Cayman GT4 or Porsche Spider, 400 horsepower, but it's that, oh, that's straight 5. It's a relentless engine in terms of power delivery. It really is. It's got so much shove. I mean, if you drive a TTS or an S3, 300 horsepower down a B road, you'll honestly get to the end of that B road probably as quickly as possible. Add another 100 horsepower to that, and that's what you've got in this thing. It is a sensational car on a B road. I mean, just listen to it go. The big challenge you've got is it's so fast. Doesn't half sound good as well. You catch up traffic really quickly, which is very annoying, especially on such a beautiful road as this. You hit speed limits really quite quickly, which is very annoying if you want to keep your license. But it's just bonkers quick. You can dispatch traffic very quickly though, which is always a good thing. But yeah, the performance wise, and again, you know, when I've looked at buying these before, I did go through a phase where it's like, how much horsepower can I get for my money? And a fast Audi, you know, an RS3 or a TTRS at 400 horsepower was pretty much as I was going to get for my budget. And the Boxster doesn't have as much as this, 360 horsepower. So you've got to ask why I bought it, really. The other thing is, if you are an Audi lover and you've got that security that Quattro gives you and the way the power's delivered, and I know some people find it a bit dull and uninspiring, I find it safe and accessible, and there's a fine line between those two. But boy, oh boy, oh boy. Woo. Yeah, anyway, as I was saying, if you're an Audi lover, if you are considering buying an Audi R8 supercar, honestly, I'd save yourself 50 grand and buy one of these, because this is a supercar for the road, because you can actually tap into it, and I'd actually say it's got more than the road by quite some way. But if I were to be driving an R8 down this road, I would be at 3 or 4 tenths. There's no way you can tap into a supercar on a British public road with a speed limit of 60 miles an hour. You can't really tap into this completely, but you can get closer, and you can really feel like you're starting to extract performance out of the car. But from a performance point of view, on a road like this, an Audi TT RS is a sensational thing, coupe or roadster. Now, it would be rude of me not to try the 0 to 60 time with my Race Logic V-Box. Let's wait for that to centre. Full launch, 3, 2, 1, go. Oh boy. 3.55 seconds. Perfect conditions for it today. Now Audi quote I think 3.7 to 60, so they're always a little bit on the safe side. That's nuts, man. 3.55 seconds. So far, this has better practicality because it's got seats in the back and a boot for the bike. It's got more horsepower and arguably in a straight line it's faster. So you're probably sitting there thinking, well, why on earth didn't you buy one? And the answer to that question is a difficult one to answer. There are a couple of reasons. First off, I would buy one of these in a heartbeat. One of the reasons I didn't is because I've had 2 TTs already. I had a Mark 1, as I've said, and I had a Mark 2 TTS. And I wanted something a little bit different. And I know the RS is the next step up in performance, but I couldn't get away from the part of me that would have got in that car and thought it's very familiar to the car I've had already. Second reason is, although this car is ballistically quick isn't everything, and noise isn't everything. There's some other intangible thing to a car that's really important. And I think one of the things that the Boxster gives, which I'm not suggesting that the TTRS doesn't, but it kind of just gives it a little bit more, is it just has a different feel to it. It has a Porsche feel to it. Sorry, couldn't help myself. And I kind of wanted to tap into having my first mid-engine car, my first Porsche. And there's another thing. I'd had a long-term want and desire to own a Porsche. And I thought it was about time that I did. And then the final reason is we're sat in the coupe TTRS, and this wouldn't be the car that I'd buy because I wanted a convertible. My 2 TTs were both roadsters, both soft tops. And as soon as you start comparing the soft top with the Porsche, all the things that this car kind of wins out on in terms of practicality and 2 seats in the back disappear. They're not there. And actually, when you compare a TT Roadster with a Porsche Boxster, oh dear me, then they become very similar cars because you don't have that set of seats in the back, you don't have the bigger boot space. In fact, I don't know the numbers, but I'm pretty sure a Boxster would have more boot space than a TT Roadster because it's got the boot at the front as well due to the mid-engine format. Let's just enjoy this road though, shall we? Here's me gassing on, and I've got one of the best bits of road around here to really enjoy. It's a cracking bit of tarmac, this. As I said, I came down here in a master's session the other week and I thought, oh, this is a good road. This is a really, really good road. Oh boy, oh boy. So yeah, TTRS Roadster. Now I actually think they look really smart, but I'm pretty sure that the Boxster starts to tick a few more boxes than that. Now, if you had 60,000 quid to spend, where would you put your money? I haven't talked about residuals and so on, and again, my gut feel says probably a Porsche will have better residuals than one of these. But actually, I'm going to finish this video off with a bit of a bombshell. If I was buying a TTRS, I wouldn't spend 60,000 quid. I'd probably spend 40 to 45,000 quid, and I'd get a used one, 2 or 3 years old, before all of the various emissions regulations meant that they had filters up to their noses, and when they sounded amazing. And I think that's the TTRS to buy. It is a sad thing though that one of my favourite Audis has not much time left. They won't be making this car, and And I think that's a great shame. Anyway, guys, I'd love to know what you think. Which would you buy? TTRS or Porsche Boxster? Or Porsche Cayman? There's the comparison. I'm confusing myself already. Let me know in the comments below, but I hope you enjoyed this one. If you have done so, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next video. That road's gonna get it again, because that road is brilliant. Love it. You take care, guys. Drive safe.